The following is a production of Fenix Media. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the company or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.
What's up, bees?
Hello.
Welcome to the Brit on Blast podcast, where we put everything and anything on blast. What's this week's roundup, Britton?
So this week we're talking about perspective, heavily focused on not making things about you, because most of the time they're not about you. Also some tips to keep perspective during challenging times, and, just keeping your attitude positive, which is really hard to do. But if you continue to keep perspective on how, blessed and grateful that you can be in your life, it carries over in a lot of different areas. So I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it too. We actually forgot that we recorded this, and I really could have used this lesson over the weekend. I did an event where I just was not in my right headspace. And, when you attract what is that saying, Helena?
Like the law of attraction?
Yeah, the law of attraction. And let me tell you, it was just all negativity. I threw my back out.
Well, no, you can't have the law of attraction if there's no people to buy your product.
Right, but I could have just had an attitude of gratitude.
Well,
I hate that I just said that, but at
the same time, you have to look at the situation for what it is. And it wasn't necessarily like you were there to sell. There was no one to buy.
We literally, and it's interesting because I talked about that with Tiff this morning. She's like, yo, are you good? Because yesterday was not good. And she's checking in on me. And I was like, yeah, I just, you get into a headspace, you get into a funk, and I let that carry into the rest of my week. And that was the issue. Is I needed it to stop and take a minute to rest and change my perspective on the whole thing. So anyway,
the good news, today's Tuesday.
It is.
So the week can go up from here.
Yep. How are you? We have so many exciting things going on in the next few weeks. Tell me everything.
I know. Okay. Well,
how was your craft event, craft collective? Why do I have such a hard time with that name? I can't talk.
No, you always think it's handcraft coffee, which honestly, we talked about that a lot. So, it was awesome. Jerry was there. We had a great time. Just doing our thing. And like I said, Alicia's married to John's cousin, and so it was just a lot of family, a lot of good vibes, a lot of fun. Yeah, and it was a beautiful day.
Love that.
Yeah, it was awesome. This week is
ladies' night.
I'm so excited. I love ladies' night. I can't wait. So fun. Aside from my entire staff being at Stagecoach, which is stressing me out. Actually, Bridget stayed back, which is really nice, and she's flying out Friday morning, but every other employee is at Stagecoach.
Do we have backup or?
We do. Okay. I just I'm great. I can get some workers, but it's hard because you said, we were talking today about how hard it is to hand off your business. And it's that is one of the most difficult things that I do, because these people represent everything that we have worked for and everything that we have created. And if they're not aligned with that, this isn't Forever 21. You can't just hire a sales associate and have them pull the clothes and drop it in the bag. This is a lot more than that.
Right.
And so the people that I get, I've definitely had to train them, and also just innately have that kind of spirit of wanting to help people. And truly every interaction you have with someone, you have to make the best of it. And I want every single person who interacts with a BLFT person to walk away feeling better.
Right.
So,
and at ladies' night, there's such a short period of time to make that happen, because we're moving. Everything is so quick. We talk about that all the time, because I've had friends want to come and hang out with me at ladies' night. And I'm like, no, you get to hang out. You go enjoy yourself, meet new people. But unfortunately I'm grateful for it and I love it. But our turnover is so quick at those events. And so to give the experience and to really share the experience of your brand, you really do have to. So I could see why you would be a little bit stressed.
Totally. I mean, I feel like a lot of business owners feel this, time is money. We have 2 hours. It's one of the biggest events of the month that we do.
Yep.
We need to make the most of it. And so and the volume is high, So I'm stressed about that, but I know that we'll be good. And, Bridget and I can cover a lot of the ground as long as we have someone checking out. So
yeah. And I mean, you have backup. There's like going to be people all over who can like at least ring up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No, my mom will jump in, I'm sure.
We have a solid crew, but just like little stresses like that. And then Saturday, I'm going to be at Full Pedal. And Moms on the Run. If you guys have heard of that nonprofit, where it's a little fundraiser for that. So I'm excited to partner with the Pinocchios and, Full Pedal, and it's just gonna be awesome.
Has Full Pedal already sold out of their seats? Because I might go grab one of those. I love that. I used to go there like a lot.
I don't know if they have, but I'm sure you could check their Instagram. And none of my employees are in town for that. So Amy from the Breathe Bar is helping me work.
Dude, I could have helped you work. I don't have any.
The last thing you want to do is another pop-up when you don't have one.
I would love nothing more than to be at a pop-up with a Full Pedal that I absolutely love going to and one of my best friends.
You're hired.
Done. I'm there.
You're hired.
That's going to be fun. You, me, and Amy selling shit.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be high energy.
It is. It is.
Awesome. Well, I have on the 7th, we're doing the Mother's Day event that is with Riverside Market. So we'll be doing that one. I'm really, really excited about that one. And there's an artist there and I'm curious if she's going to be there again. And I can post her. I'm forgetting her name right now, but she's like this red haired beauty and her artwork is so beautiful. So I'm excited to get to see her again too.
Nice.
It's always fun meeting up with like people that you've seen along the way.
Right. I know. I love that. One more thing we forgot to add about Ladies Night.
Yeah.
The photo booth.
Yes.
Right.
Photo booth. And didn't they sold out of all of their spots?
I think they did sell out of all of their spots. So that's a bummer.
Right. So we've brought it up. Jerry and Sarah with the Abesto Co. are going to be at Ladies Night and they're doing a really beautiful setup and they're working with Luminescence Decor and a couple other local vendors to create the scene. And then they're going to be taking photos, Mama and Minnie and Mama or something like that. I'm going to mess that up because that's what I do best. But it's really exciting. I was going to take one with my mom, but I didn't even get a seat. So I was going to sit on my mom's lap.
Oh my. Stop. Your legs would be like dangling all over the place.
They would, and I would probably break my mom's lap because she's just a delicate flower.
No.
But, you know,
I feel like you and Sage. Let's be honest.
Me and Sage. Sage can't be coming back to... The last time I brought Sage was because I was about to adopt a dog. So Sage isn't welcome back to Record Street.
I got you. I got you there.
All right. Well, I want to jump into this week's episode. I'm super, super excited for you guys to hear about perspective, and I hope you enjoy it.
So, Britt, because this is in your wheelhouse, why the Automobile Museum?
I mean, you know, for me, it's about the cars all day long. I love cars. I like old cars, new cars, all the things. For me, the fact that they have the DeLorean here and the Batmobile in the same room is like, it makes my heart happy. So that's why for me, but I think for like someone like us, like doing things with all of our friends, like 160 of our close friends could go to the theater.
In any movie that you want. They have so many things to offer. The space camp for your kids, if you want, like need a little break or you want to look at the cars. Reno's just really lucky to have it. It's one of the biggest collections, I think, in the country, which is awesome.
It's so cool. And the fact that it's here in the biggest little city is like the coolest thing ever. So yeah, grab a bottle of tequila and come on into the theater.
Yes, Back to the Future.
Get all your friends, 160 of them, so the whole town of Reno.
So everyone you know.
And watch a movie.
Yep.
You can find tickets at the automuseum.org.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where you go get your tickets.
Perfect.
Fun day.
Britton, tell us what BLFT is all about because you know it's my favorite place to shop.
The Biggest Little Fashion Truck is a family-owned and operated boutique on wheels. We got started 5 years ago because I had this deep desire to make women feel more confident. And I found out that one of the many ways you can enhance your confidence was through clothing. Hence our why, confidence through clothing.
We love some confidence in our lives.
We pride ourselves in bringing back that old school expertise in customer service by providing an experience, whether it be at our pop-up events around town.
We love the pop-up events. I'm at those with her all the time and they are fire.
Or we have a storefront, the Babe Cave. We just want each and every babe to feel better and be ready to be seen after shopping with us. Shop us online at the Babe Cave or our pop-up events at local businesses around town. We can't wait to see you. And a little something special we have for you. Use promo code BOB20 for 20% off your purchase online.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna be shopping today. All right. So this week we're talking about perspective and really like your point of view, and how that really can affect your life and your relationships with other people. So per usual, we are going to start with the definition, which is a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something. It's a point of view, is your perspective. So an opinion or
point of view or what make us all unique. Our perspective can change how we adapt through our lives, how others treat us, how we receive others, and of course, our relationships, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know, something that we're going to get into heavily at the end of this is changing our point of view, because spoiler alert, it's not about you. How to not take things personally.
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of life experience with this in the last like couple months. I mean, we've talked about the last 9 months, and I think it's because like I was on like such a like weird transitional period of my life on such steroids. And instead of like taking a moment to myself through a lot of that period, like really like June, July, really like May to like January of this year, I really didn't take any time to like sort it out on my own. I dragged people through the mud. And you always like look at me like that. And it's like, no, I know I didn't like drag people through the mud. I don't think people felt that way necessarily, but I think that I acted in certain ways. Tiffany and I talked about this yesterday, where it's like, we'll get into a little bit later, but
I don't think that you did that at all. I think that you continually showed up even
when I shouldn't have
that. And I think that, you know, sometimes our perspective can change based off the circumstances in our lives. And like, it's almost like you just want to hit the pause button, right?
Yes.
Take a step back and then be like, why am I feeling this? And we'll get into this because I actually have that written down somewhere, and I'm excited to talk about it. But I don't think that you drug people through the mud. I think that you continually showed up amidst the crisis that you were going through. So
yeah. Well,
give yourself a little grace.
Thank you for thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important to remember that we all have different perspective on things. And I've said this a million times before, and I'm just going to keep saying it, because of our own personal experiences that have shaped our opinions and our perspectives on life. So no two people have had the same experience in life. Even if you had that same experience, you both had other experiences that made you perceive that one experience differently from the other person. So no two people will ever have the exact same perspective.
And I think that's something that we should embrace, because I think that's the edge that we have in life. No one is like us. Yeah. Even if you are an identical twin and your DNA matches up 100%, you're going to have different experiences and different perspectives of the world, and it's going to make you unique. I think that, you know, when we talked about authenticity, it was like the number one thing is be you, because you have to show up for the world to, you know, reach your purpose and your passion. And our perspective is, you know, what makes us us.
Yeah.
And with that being said, keeping things in perspective can be very challenging.
Yeah.
So it can be different. It can be difficult to keep things in perspective in our personal and professional lives. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the day-to-day interactions, letdowns. But keeping a good perspective is so important. According to thriveglobal.com, it states, how many times have we had an opinion on something, been convinced that we were right, only to have someone else come up with a previously unconsidered information or introduce a different viewpoint, prompting a whole new way of thinking. Being ready to listen to another's perspective is important. It keeps our minds flexible and adaptable, and is an important part of staying youthful and tolerant of what else is happening in the world. This is such a huge thing that's happening in our world right now. I feel like we are so quick to dismiss an opposing opinion or facts because they don't align with what we want them to or what we think we need to believe. If we could all just be a little bit more open. I mean, of course we need to stand firmly in our values and our beliefs, but if we could just be, you know, be open to new information that is presented to us, right? Or facts that are presented to us. I mean, it doesn't help that the news and the media kind of gaslight every single thing, that we don't know what to trust and we don't know what's, you know, true. But if we can be aware that this is happening and try to limit it in our day-to-day interactions, we'll approach things with more understanding through a broader perspective.
Absolutely. I love that you're saying that, because as we were putting this together, I was thinking this morning in the shower, I'm like, you know, I was talking to the tattoo artist yesterday, and he was like, we were listening to the like Slim Shady LP, like the original album from Slim Shady, and like slaps, like great album. And we were just like, the fact that he was allowed to say this stuff back then, and like people were like a little bit upset, but they weren't. Today, if Eminem said the things that he said back then, he would be like put on the cross and burned. Like the man would be. And I think, and I've said this before, like I have a really hard time with this like concept of like the man is supposed to be so strong and so perfect. And so like they're supposed to do all the work. And as I've like the dating experience side of things. But what I'm finding is that like, as I'm dating as an adult, I'm like, these men have all of this shit that they've been through in their lives. Like, and I've had experiences with women and men that have made me really approach life a lot differently. And what I find is, I mean, I have girlfriends who are like, he should be the one to text you first. He should do this. He should do that. I'm like, that's a lot of work for another guy. Like, that's a lot of work. What about all of these things that he's not disrespecting me? He's just like putting himself first. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
And I don't know if I have that perspective because I've seen my dad like work so hard to be successful and to be a better man in spite of all of the hard things he's been through in his life. And my dad will say to me, he's like, yo, you know that like men have insecurities too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, what an interesting concept. Like maybe he hasn't texted you because he's intimidated by you and he really likes you and he doesn't want to ruin it.
Right. I mean, yeah, they're humans too. And it's like, I think that it's very mature to put yourself, you know, in his point of view and to see things through his point of view. And I hope that he's doing the same for you. If you understand where he's coming from, you're way more apt to not take things personally and be like, he hasn't texted me back. You're like, well, maybe he had a long day and maybe he's working and maybe, you know, his family life is going to, and maybe he's not on his phone. Maybe he's the type of person who's not on his phone all the time, but really connects in person. You just don't know. Like,
right.
And so, yeah, I think that that's definitely something that,
I think what you said is like really, really important. And I wrote down some notes about like a specific situation with my mom recently. I feel like it does come down to communication. That was like the thing that you said. So being able to calmly communicate your feelings about something can really enlighten someone to why you reacted how you did. I think as you get to know people more, you become like a little bit more tolerant of the way that they are, for better or for worse, quite frankly. And then hopefully having someone who is willing to listen to your opinion. And that's, I think, a big thing too that we're missing is nobody's willing to listen to everybody else's opinions. Like you don't have to agree with the person. You should just listen to them.
But it's like, if it doesn't align with exactly what they're feeling or what they want it to be, then they immediately shut down and say why they're wrong. Instead of just like, okay, I mean, take bits and pieces.
Right.
Maybe you don't agree with the whole thing, but like be open to it.
Right. And you can almost always find a common ground if you both are respectfully communicating. I think of this situation where someone, this was the song situation. The mom thing's going to come up later, but I think of the situation where someone had sent me a song. Okay.
I think I remember this.
Both Christian and Britton are like, I listened to that song with Christian and Britton in the room. Okay. And all of us, and I was having a bad day. Remember, I was so grumpy that day. I walked in pissed about whatever the fuck. I don't even know. And I listened to the song with other people in the room and immediately was like, absolutely not. I sent this person I think it was like a 3-minute voice memo of how he could not disrespect me like this. And like, he was missing out on a good thing because like, I don't want to hear about his ex. The guy was just simply sharing a nice artist with me that he liked. He was like, I just wanted you to hear this guy, Teddy Swims. Like, he's really fantastic. And I was like, cool. So I assumed the worst.
Because you totally made it about yourself when it was actually about the artist and how talented.
I totally made it about myself. I assumed the worst because my experiences had led me to expect the worst. And this person was just like trying to find common ground, a reason to talk to me, quite frankly.
Right.
And I freaked out.
Wow.
So
that backfired.
I know Tiffany was like, I feel like you owe him an apology. I was like, that's interesting that you say that.
I mean, it's buffed out since then, right?
I don't know. I think I might actually apologize, honestly. Oh, this is his apology. This is it. This is the best I can do.
So you better listen to episode 21. No, this is going to be later. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. So
tips.
Because your perspective can have such a huge influence on your overall happiness and everything, there's, things that we can do to keep things in perspective. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's so many things out there, but we just selected a few. According to goodandwell.com, these are strategies therapists themselves. So this is like written by therapists and what they do to put things in perspective for themselves. So not necessarily what they preach to other people, but what they use. And I'm like, well, if a therapist is using it, then it sure is hell good enough for me. So
absolutely.
The first one is think beyond this moment in time.
Yeah. So being able to realize that the time is going to pass and that you will get through the challenge. Time heals. I think we can all look back on certain times when we thought the world was ending. But as time goes on and we realize it wasn't that big of a deal at all, our perspective starts to change.
I mean, this happens continually throughout my life. I can just, and I think that with age,
yes,
in maturity, but like I look back at my time in high school and college, and I'm just specifically thinking about playing because I could use a million other examples, but this one just really hits home. It's like, I remember in high school and college, I would think that, a big game or an at-bat was the most important earth-shattering thing that has ever happened to me.
Yep.
But in reality, I wouldn't remember it 3 games later or 3 months later or 3 weeks later. So it's like time has a way of making huge situations and moments seem small, you know?
Absolutely.
And so I just feel like if you can keep that perspective and know that, I mean, think of the horrible, horrible things that have happened in your lives or in the world and like
blip. It's a blip.
I mean, one of my employees has a shirt that said shit'll buff. And I said it earlier, but it's true. Like it'll buff out,
Yeah.
So just keeping that in perspective during those moments of like all the anxiety and upheaval that you're feeling, it just helps you keep perspective.
Absolutely. I recently saw a reel that said you're 28 and you want to go to 4 years of school, but you don't want to be 32 when you graduate. Well, the time is going to pass anyway. Mm-hmm. So in 4 years, you'll still be 32 and you could either have the degree you wanted or you could not. And I think of that with Haven and Flux all the time. It's hard right now and it's really overwhelming, and working, 14 days straight sucked. But all this time is going to pass regardless. And in 5 years, I could be 37 with a killer company making big waves in the mental health community, or I could be the same person I am now working for someone else. And that doesn't mean working for somebody else is bad. It's just like, if you have a dream, like I had a dream, okay? Like I wanted to do something bigger. So if you have something that you want to do that's bigger, like now's the time to start.
So Britt, why intentional candles for mental health?
Because building healthy habits around your intentions can have a positive impact on not only your mental health, but your overall productivity. I wanted to create a premium non-toxic candle that reminded my customers that life is complex and we can live in the and space. Talking about mental health and mental illness doesn't always have to be scary or depressing. Sometimes it can be fun and enlightening. We are wildly unique and expansive creatures, as we've talked about on the podcast before, and we can be many things in a day. And sometimes we just need to light a candle to remind ourselves who the fuck we are and what we are capable of.
I 100% agree with that. Plus, your candles smell so good and they fill up my whole house. I hear you have something special for our listeners.
I do. I have a little promo for our bees. Y'all can head to havenandflux.com and use code BOB20 at checkout to get 20% off your order. I hope y'all enjoy. There's no time like the present, and it might seem really big and really overwhelming in the moment. Like that's your perspective. In hindsight, 5 years from now, you're going to be like, damn, how many things do we wish we would have done?
Well, when you said this, I like totally just brought back this memory. So after I graduated from college and I was done playing, I was going through like this little crisis, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just couldn't find something that like lit me up the way that playing did.
Yeah.
And so I felt like numb and dull, and just like nothing in life really was just igniting that fire inside that I was used to living my life at that high level of just passion, right? And competitiveness and all of that. So I remember I was standing in the driveway with my mom, and I was like, because I was a graduate assistant for the athletic department, and they had offered me to continue to work there and to go to graduate school. And then I was like, I want to work in sports or something. And I remember telling her like, Mom, I hate school so much. Like, why would I put myself through grad school? And she was like, look, you don't know what you want to do. Like, you can continue to go through this turmoil, or you can go get your master's, which you're not going to regret. And now looking back, I don't use my master's, but I sure as hell don't regret that extra time of still moving forward in my life.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was definitely challenging and hard, but just the fact that I proved to myself that I could get my master's because I'm not that academically inclined, gave me confidence that I probably used to get me through hard times with the truck,
I mean, and I put that in here because I was like, an at bat, I was reading your story and I was like, an at bat probably seems so small compared to what you do now.
Right.
Like those things are like, in hindsight, it's like, they're not that big. And like, yeah, in hindsight, maybe you don't use your master's, but in hindsight also, you could have, I think about this all the time. Okay. We look at the last 9 months of my life. I could have kept drinking the way that I was drinking, and I could have kept smoking the way that I was smoking. And if I stayed on that path, I would not be where I am today. Having to do very uncomfortable changes, having to tell my friends, yeah, no, I'm not going to be out every Friday, Saturday night, hurt me in the moment. It was hard to do in the moment. That level of like, willpower was like I wanted to have fun. Like I had fear of missing out. Like I wanted to be there with my friends, but hindsight paid off.
Totally.
And is still paying off.
Well, and the habits that you created because of that lifestyle change, you work out regularly, all of the things that come from sometimes doing the hard thing. But like we said, the time will pass anyway. So you can either be ahead of where you were or stay in the same spot.
Yeah. And that brings us to number 2, which is being aware that you actually have to change your perspective to feel better.
Yeah. So slow down enough to be able to identify your perspective and then know that you actively have to make the mental shift to change it. By seeing the situation in a different perspective, you're able to problem solve more efficiently. So it's one thing to be like, aware that your perspective is off, like maybe coming from a selfish point of view, but like actively making the shift is going to be the difference.
Right. I think we talk about, we are still talking about hindsight. We like can't stop talking about it. If I had a single second to slow down and be alone through like July through mid-February, I would have handled about 80% of that time differently. I tend to like learn through experiencing, but taking a second to be alone with your thoughts without any outside opinions is just really, really important. When I started to do that, that's when my mindset was like, you're alone. I'm alone in my house, right? It's me, my dog, and my thoughts. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking at my candle studio and I'm like, this is going to fail if I keep doing what I'm doing. Oh, at that time I was drinking a lot. Like I was drinking a lot. I was never not drinking. Like every night of the week I was drinking. I was uncomfortable in my own skin. I wasn't working out. I would make excuses for everything. And Tiff and I talked about this yesterday. She would like literally text me and she'd be like, why are you not working? Like, why are you not in Pilates? Like, where are you? Why are you not on the schedule? Like she will hunt me down. And having those people to hold me accountable, then what happened is I would be like, okay, it's Tuesday night. I know Tiff is going to text me in the morning, so I have to be there. So I'm going to spend Tuesday night alone and not drink. And then as I was doing those little things and going to therapy, I was like, okay, you are sinking or swimming right now.
Small changes create like massive
ripple effects.
Yes.
And that started really in January, I would say, little towards the end of December, maybe. And now I'm seeing huge impacts in my business from that start point back then.
It's awesome. I think that something that helps me make a shift in my perspective is looking around and seeing all the people who have faced the same challenge and have successfully gone through it, or just simply looking around and seeing how other people handle their business and get through challenges. I see people who are, super successful in business, and I think of all the things that they must have faced along the way to get to the point that they're at, and probably still do face on a daily basis, and how they've overcome them. And I think, well, I can do that too.
Yeah.
And I also look at other people and I think if they can do it,
so can I.
So can I. Like, it's empowering to use other people as examples because you realize that you are indeed capable of doing it and they have overcome the challenges and you can do it too.
And it's all about the company you keep. I think that's a big thing. Another big pivotal moment for me was starting the podcast with you and becoming more close with you, because I was like, oh, that's how Britton lives her life. Like, she's got a successful business. She's 5, you're 4 years ahead of me at that point. And I was like, oh, okay. So if I start acting the way that Britton's acting and start treating my business the way Britton treats her business, then in 4 years I could be where Britton is. And that felt like really encouraging to me. Same with Tiffany. You know what I mean? Like as a realtor, it was like, she's committed to her business. She's committed to her wellness. And like, I know that like, if I do this, it is truly the company that you keep
100%.
to help you change.
And we say this all the time, but like, you know, you've helped me so much as far as like asking for what I want, and just like the way that you live your life. I look at you and I'm like, oh, well, she still showed up and did it through all of that. So I need to show up through my hard times and, you know, do it too. So I think that we just, you know, kind of motivate each other just by simply being ourselves.
Right.
But
your
I think
authentic self.
Can you imagine that?
Did we do the full circle? I love that.
Okay. So number 3 is name your emotion. By labeling how you're feeling, such as worried or afraid, you're able to then recognize why you're feeling these emotions. Then you're more equipped to deal with them. So
yeah, I like this one so much. So I don't know. I'm going to ask this question. I know the answer to it for all of us. I don't even need the listeners to answer. But y'all have all been in a super negative self-talk in the middle of the night or just randomly throughout the day. Like we all have done it. I didn't even make that a question. I just made it a statement. Basically, like for me, all of a sudden my brain will just be like, yo, you suck and you're never going to make it. Yeah. Like just out of nowhere. And I'm like, whoa, excuse me?
Yeah, seriously. So last night, for example,
that was me, 4 a.m. this morning. I was like, oh, okay. So I started doing this name the emotion and like telling myself that the anxiety is just an okay, let me start that sentence over. I started thinking about 2 things in my head at once just now. Yeah. So I started naming the emotion and I would tell myself that the anxiety is just as undetermined as the success. So what that means to me is that like by me saying that I suck, it's just as true as me saying I'm a success. Mm-hmm. They're the same thing. I don't have either of those there's no proof in either of those for me right now. But I could believe either one, and that's going to shift me towards the direction. So if you just decide that you are like, when your head is saying like, I suck, you can just be like, nah, I'm great. And you don't know that to be true. It could be false, but you don't know. You don't know it to be true that you suck either.
Yeah, but you might as well tell yourself the positive thing.
I woke up this morning and I was like, I got the new tattoo, right? It's a lot bigger than the rest of my tattoos. It's the most beautiful piece of artwork and describes me perfectly. I woke up this morning and I was like, oh my God, everybody's going to hate it. And then I was like, okay, you did not permanently tattoo an image on your body for anybody else but yourself.
Right.
And it's just changing the thought process. Am I going to see my mom at lunch today? Is she going to yell at me? 90% chance. That's not the problem.
Right. It's not your mom's arm. You
didn't do it
to please your mom. You did it because it made you feel good and it represents something that you're going through and feeling right now.
Right. But both emotions, they have the same exact power. I just pick which one I want to believe now. So if I'm pouring candles and all of a sudden my brain is like, none of these will sell, I'll just say in my head, cool, that's anxiety. And also so far I keep selling them. And if I keep working hard, I'll keep selling more and more.
And by, you know, telling yourself the positive part, it balances off that kind of like worst case scenario, like record that you keep playing on in your head all the time. So you might as well continue to play the best case scenario in your head and just meet somewhere in the middle.
Right. I mean, I don't know, you can't only think so many thoughts in your head at one time. So with all the like stuff of like the to-do list and then also just picking to the positive lane.
Yeah, exactly. So by labeling how you're feeling, you can break it down and figure out why you are feeling that way. In one of my businesses, we are currently laying out a ton of cash to move forward. And it's one of the biggest risks and investments of my business career. And I know, everything, it's just a perspective. So to some people it might be pennies, but to me it's a lot of money. And I have moments where I think that it's all going to fail and that I'm going to be in debt forever. And however many hundreds of thousands of dollars that, I'm using right now, is just going to be for nothing. And I label it as fear. Mm-hmm. I'm fearful that I'm going to screw it all up and we're, going to all fail. And all the people that I have with me are going to, not be able to pay their house payment or their car payment or whatever. And once I label it as fear, I am better equipped to handle it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I use my self-talk to get me in a more positive mindset, like you were saying. And, by positive self-talk, I tell myself the best case scenario instead of just the worst case scenario, like failure. And then, oftentimes I just, take a moment and just pray because it is the quickest relief and brings peace the fastest for me. So, praying and just, having that, having that faith that the future holds better, brighter days, you know? And that just, it all just kind of seems to like fade away when I start to, you know, label it as fear and then kind of put the Band-Aid on of good self-talk and praying.
I mean, they say faith over fear, and I'm not going to lie, that may or may not be a candle that's coming at some point in the future.
I need that. I need that so big.
I know. Well, I think we all do. Because I think about, I mean, fear is like such an asshole.
Yeah.
I
For
mean,
sure.
seriously, like the things, and they're not, it's not true. It's not real. Like snowboarding, right? You're at the top of the mountain, and I always see like all the kids, and I'm like, I'm going to hit one of these kids. No, you're not. You can literally trust your body to like take you where it needs to go. And you're a full grown adult that can just lay down.
Right.
Like just sit down if you think you're going to hit one of those kids. Like you're already preparing yourself.
But it's like labeling it. Like I used to be like, oh, I'm having anxiety. And it was like, yeah, maybe it is a dose of anxiety, but by labeling it as fear, then I'm like way better equipped to handle it and to like overcome it. Right. So just name what you're going through, you know, name your emotion.
All right, so you guys know that I live for Western wear, specifically my boots and my hats. So I want to talk a little bit about a brand new brand that is new to Reno, Nevada, and is from our beautiful babe over here. So Britton, tell us what Murdock's is.
Well, first of all, hats have been one of my truest loves since I was a kid. I swear I had a hat on in every single picture as a child. And then they quickly became a BLFT signature. We couldn't find the hat that was just perfect. And so we decided to design our own. Murdock's is a family brand that started in the great state of Nevada in the 1950s. My great-grandparents started Murdock's Western wear. Fast forward 60 years, the Murdock sisters recreate this homegrown brand by curating a hat line that embodies the spirit of Nevada. We were raised in this amazing state, and we watched a Nevadan's ability to put in a hard day's work on the ranch, followed by a hard night's play at the casinos. We pulled inspiration from the everyday beauty around us, the sunsets, Lake Tahoe, the mountains, and the forest.
I'm not going to lie, I have full body chills right now because you hit so many nails on the head just now. Like there's nothing that screams Reno, Nevada more than family and community and a little bit of Western. So the fact that you put all of our favorite things together and then you made it all about like bringing back the roots of your family brings me so much joy. Y'all need to check out Murdock's hats. Where do you find them?
Murdock'sHatsAndApparel.com.
We love it. Go shop, y'all. And I think that really takes us to our next one, which is taking a step back, right? That's number 4. Take a step back. If something goes wrong, even if it's a small situation that leads you to that fear, like you can take a step back and say like, yo, that's fear. And we're not going to do that right now.
But sometimes the smallest things can be all consuming and distracting. And they're so small. So taking a step back or removing yourself from the situation, even for a short period of time, can allow you to put things back in perspective. A change in environment can help with a change in perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to add taking a bird's eye view to this piece. And I think this can be really hard on people. And I think that we can take a step back, but it's important to, and this is the hard part, is like, take in all perspectives. So when I say bird's eye view, it's like consider other people's experiences in a situation. And obviously, like I am fascinated by relationships. I'm fascinated by people. I think people are so fascinating what makes them into who they are. I love demographics. If y'all haven't hung out with me, you know I'm like obsessed with like why people live and do and be where they are. And so that being said, I can be really hard on people, and especially my parents at times. We've been through a lot as a family, and sometimes I can really be tough on my mom, which is unfair to her. We are very different. So she took really like, she is a mother and a mother only and a wife, and she takes care of the household. And for me, I wanted to be more like my dad, and I wanted to be a career woman. So we've kind of like butt heads over the years over that. And we just have very different perspectives on things. But I remind myself that when she was my age, I'm 32 right now, she was living alone in a new state, raising 2 kids, a 5 and a 1-year-old, while her and my dad were working through a long distance relationship. So, then I look at myself at 32 and I'm like, I had a long distance relationship with a guy I knew for like a year. I had no children with him. It got hard. We bailed. I had a mental breakdown and my only responsibility was my dog and my business. And, when my mom, as I was going through that, my mom kind of had this like, get your shit together mentality. And that was really hard on me. But when I look at her situation and her at 32, and I started to look at it that way, I was like, she probably was like, if she could make it through that, because she, I think, looks at me as like stronger than her. So she was probably like, if she can handle what she handled, like, so like get your shit together. Like, so can you.
Right.
And, it was all out of love and not out of disrespect at all. My mom was just trying to fuel me forward. And my mom, then having that perspective of my mom, she looks at me like I'm so strong and I'm so capable and all of these things. I think I do a lot of the things she wish that she would have. And my mom, I'm looking at her being like, you're a badass. Like, I can't imagine doing the things that you did. And quite frankly, she deserves a lot more respect from me than I give her at times, for what she's endured. And each time I take a step back and I remember the big picture, I understand that our perspectives are, I understand her perspective a lot better, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And it allows you to be like more empathetic and understanding of why she maybe judges what you're doing or how she reacts to what you're doing in your life. But I think that what you said was so great is like, take a bird's eye view, so maybe not take a step back, take a step up.
Yeah.
And then see it from, like we talked about this when we did our spirit animal ones, LOL at that pod. Also, you guys, we've gotten a lot better since then.
Yeah.
And just, like we said, take a step back. Well, we like to say, take a step up. You remove yourself, even if it's just for a couple minutes, go for a walk, step outside, take a deep breath. This will allow you to put things back in perspective. And I know that definitely always helps me.
Absolutely.
But I don't always do it.
No.
It's like, if you just like get up from the computer and like stop panicking.
Seriously.
Like, yeah.
Didn't we say at one point on one podcast, like, go for a walk, like have a panic attack, go for a walk.
Seriously. We're going to have to really cruise through these next ones. Oh God. We kind of already touched on that. So let's skip that one.
Okay, great.
So talk to those that you love and trust. By talking, it can really calm your emotions and bring you peace. Like you were just saying, we have that like inner circle of people we truly trust and respect. So a talk with your mom or best friend or fellow business owner, anyone you trust can be soul food.
Absolutely. And I think that those people will know what you need in that moment without even knowing, like Tiffany taking me to get a tattoo and being like, yo, booked you an appointment.
Right.
Because she has heard me talk about it. Like she knew that I wanted a tattoo and she was like, all right, I'm just going to make her do this thing that she needs.
So, they can build you up and say one thing that you hold on to that changes your outlook on what you're going through.
Yeah. The next one, I actually want you to talk about it because you're much better at meditation than I am.
I just recently got back into it. I used to be like really big into it, but, meditation is something that's been working since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't need to overthink it. Meditation is so beneficial. We know that. It's just, taking the time to do it. I fell out of practice for a very long time, but just in the last 2 weeks, I've, tried to be more routine with it. And I cannot tell you how beneficial it has been, even 5 minutes, because sometimes
that's all you have.
Yeah. But it seriously helps. And it just quiets my mind, which is, an impossible task.
Yeah. Okay. So what you just said reminded me of the tattoo situation that we were talking about before this, which I compared to working out. So the second we walked into the tattoo shop, I heard the machines going and I was like immediately calm. And I have a lot of tattoos. So I think like my brain knew that was like a connection to what was going to happen next. And I wasn't originally going to get a tattoo. LOL. Tiffany booked me one. So I ended up getting a tattoo after her. And as you get a tattoo, you are forced to connect your mind and body and really control your mind because it is painful for like the first 10, 15 minutes. It's really painful. Your body is like, I'm being stabbed over and over and over again. But then it shifts. All of a sudden it's like very calming. Like you're very relaxed and it feels like, I don't know, because it's such a repetitive motion and and there are parts where it will still like hurt and sting, but I honestly find it like so soothing. And afterwards, Tiffany was like, you look like you just got a massage. Like, I feel like I just got a massage with a needle.
Yeah. It's like, I don't have any tattoos. So I'm I'm living through
Don't
this.
start.
I'm living through this, but it's like, yeah, that mind body connection. And that's something that I feel like I 100% benefit from because I'm constantly in a state of hysteria.
Yeah. Like controlling your brain is something that
Yes.
is like really important, which leads us to our next one, which is therapy, which I am a big proponent of because she's taught me how to like rethink things and has kind of given me like the introduction of like, actually, what have you thought of like this version of that? So having a professional give you insight, and professional is key word here. Give you insight on your experiences kind of helps you give you a different perspective on life, I think.
Totally.
Yeah. So,
You know, even like I just cling on to like 2 things that my therapist has told me through our time. And it's like, it's already okay. Everything is already okay.
yeah.
And I say that to myself all the time. And then another thing is you've survived 100% of your difficult days. You'll get through this one too, but on yourself, because you have 100% survival rate.
100%.
So, and then lastly, don't take things personally. When we see through a sensitive lens, we think everyone is acting out against us when in reality, that's not the case. So let's get into this deeper. We'll cruise through.
Yeah.
But you know, I feel like this is something that we all kind of go through at some point or another in our lives.
We're all innately selfish. Like, I don't want to go into this and be like, oh, you know, like you are innately selfish. Do not argue me on that. Like it is natural for us to be that way. Like in order to survive.
It's our egos, you know?
So, don't take things personal because it's not always about you, which we've said a million times. So according to Forbes, when people disrespect you or do not treat you well, it is easy to take their behavior personally, to blame yourself and think you have anything to do with someone else's behavior. Taking things personally is emotionally draining and an unnecessary constant reevaluation. I'm sorry. Did I skip something here? No, taking things, you guys, my brain is not working today. Taking things personally is emotionally draining and an unnecessary constant reevaluation of your self-esteem. We talked about self-esteem before. There's a difference between being reflective and constantly taking slights personally. One is productive and lends itself to self-improvement. The other is the opposite. Not taking things personally gives you more control over how you respond, your emotions, and your energy level, which is key for me in my life. Here are a few ways to stop taking things personally. Before we get into that really quickly, I want to say, like, this morning with the tattoo thing, we just talked about that, right? I was like so worried that people were going to like be upset about my tattoo. I immediately switched my head. I'm like, I don't care about what other people think. I got this tattoo for myself. That it took 2 seconds. Energy switched. Don't care. I'm not wasting my time on that. So let's get into a few ways you can stop taking things personally.
Stop worrying about what other people think. You know, at the end of the day, it really isn't anyone's business what people think of you or anything else. You shouldn't worry about what you think. You shouldn't worry about what you think of yourself and what people you know, love, and care about think of you. And that's it. So, you know, I mean, that's way easier said than done, because I think that we all have those like moments where we walk into a place and we're like, what is everyone going to think about me? Right. And it's like, just who cares?
Who cares? What they think of you is quite frankly none of your business.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, so, and I think this goes back to what we've talked about earlier in a previous podcast, is knowing your worth, like your self-esteem. Okay. You're not going to believe what other people think about you or say about you when you know who you are and you know it's not true. Having that self-confidence and knowing your self-worth is the foundation on which everything else is built. Okay. Yeah. Everything else is built. So your achievement, your worth is completely different. And that doesn't mean, I will tell you that back in December, I thought I knew my worth. Okay. We talked about the song situation. I thought I knew my worth. So I like popped off, didn't know my worth. I went at that from an angry perspective.
Well, and thinking that it was all about you. You know, it's like when we're feeling insecure or sensitive, we could be at a place and see 2 people laughing and joking. Maybe they're our friends or something. You automatically think that they're making fun of you. It's like, no, maybe they're just having a funny conversation. It's not all about you, you know? And I think different circumstances in life make us more fragile and maybe make us become like more introverted into ourselves and our own perspective. And it's hard to, see the world through a bigger lens, but just be aware of that. So, stop worrying about what other people think. Know your worth. Don't jump to conclusions. Like I just used that example, don't jump to the conclusion that they're laughing at you or making fun of you. They're not. Spoiler alert.
Don't make the jump to the conclusion that the song that person sent you was literally about them wanting to get back with their ex. Like,
yeah. Right. Fill your calendar. If you're busy, you don't have time to think about what other people are thinking about you.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good one because honestly, you really don't. My new thing, I feel like that. What is that? Anna inventing Anna or whatever the hell. And she's like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for you. I'm like that meme now. I'm like, I really don't have time for anything. Like I don't have time for my own thoughts. I don't have time for, I literally have my routine built so specifically. Like I really do not have time for you if you do not fall within the people that I genuinely care about.
Yeah.
If I'm making time for you right now, like it means you mean something to me.
Right.
The next one is don't climb down. So when someone disrespects you or is cruel to you, the worst reaction is to reply with more negativity and toxicity. Hi, hello. That was me for the past 9 months.
Right.
Do not climb down that rabbit hole is the point I think that we're trying to make here, and be part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because then hindsight 2020, now I'm in a situation, right, where I'm like, I feel like I should apologize because that was kind of a weird thing that I did. And they could not even be thinking of it at all, but it's bothering me. So now I feel like I'm like going through the AA program and I like need to go and say sorry for all the things.
Wash it off. Yeah, no, definitely don't climb down. I mean, Forbes got it right. Like if we do these things, stop worrying about what other people think, know your worth, don't jump to conclusions, fill your calendar and don't climb down.
Yeah.
I think that, it's not about you. Give yourself some empathy.
Yeah. I think the last little piece I want to leave you guys with before we close out here is that, keeping in mind that at any given point, you can change your mind, okay, about anything. Someone disrespecting you may have nothing to do with you. They may just be busy or stressed or upset about something that has nothing to do with you. Change your mind about the perceived disrespect. Maybe it's just them having a bad day. Circle back another time. Ask them, communicate. If you're exhausted and doing your job seems really overwhelming, pick the smallest or most mindless task and change your mind about it.
Yes.
Listen to a book or podcast or your favorite music and make it a fun thing instead of it being a draining thing.
We're all free humans. No one has control over us. We may give people control over, what we think that they are thinking, but they don't have control over us. We're free individuals to do what we want.
Wild and free.
Change our minds, change our perspective at any given time, like you said.
Yep. And so with that, you want to leave them with some closing thoughts?
The perspective you build in your head around an experience is far more powerful than the experience itself. I have such a quick example to just wrap up with this. So I was in therapy. My therapist told me that when she was going through school, she was working at a children's hospital, and she always seems to see the good side in things. And she said that a guy walked into the children's hospital with a gun, and she thought that he, was meant to be there. And I don't know, she just said she thought it was a toy gun and that he was doing gun education or something, when really it wasn't that at all. And there was a huge traumatic event. No one died or anything, but he ended up getting arrested. So while the other therapists had to go to therapy and they had PTSD and all this stuff, she was like, I didn't experience it that way. I'm totally fine, even though the reality of what happened was the same exact thing. So, what you build in your head and how you experience things is more powerful than the experience itself.
Yep. I mean, and I'm experiencing that every single day in the way that I've been healing from all the stuff that I've been through, both from my childhood, when I was 3 and 4 to now.
Right.
And I just think that when you take control of your mind, that's a powerful thing.
Right. And even something as dramatic as that, two people can interpret the situation completely different and have completely different fallout from it.
Yep.
And so, whatever you're going through, give yourself some empathy, and then obviously know that you can change your perspective. Yep. Have a bird's eye view.
And that's a powerful thing, y'all. So with that, we are going to leave you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Brit on Blast. Follow along, Brit on Blast, and find us at BLFT Reno, Murdock Hats and Apparel, and Haven and Flux. And if you like the show, subscribe and review Brit on Blast on whatever platform you're listening on. I don't know if you've noticed, but we actually are getting quite a bit of reviews on both, and it's joyful. Go there. They're 5 stars. People think we're good.
Wow.
I know it's stupid.
I don't read my own headlines, but just kidding.
I do it sometimes when I'm feeling low. I'm actually, people like us.
Best case scenario.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Y'all are the best, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, y'all.